blue sky contains no rest. Ancient floods stand thin and proud, like people shuffling through a crowd. And here I stand, so small and far, singing to a single star.
Welcome to Seeking the Light of 1,000 Suns podcast. In today's episode, we delve into the fascinating realm of crystal healing and the art of tapping into the energy of stones. Whether you're a seasoned crystal enthusiast or a newcomer, join us on a journey toward a deeper understanding of harnessing the power of crystals. Be sure to stay tuned for parts 2 and 3 of this series as we explore the methods of choosing, using, attuning, and creating ritual with crystals. Hi, Maya.
Hi, Gia. I'd like to talk a little bit about what crystals are. And I know this is really kind of your wheelhouse as far as the geology part of it in particular. I think if you wouldn't mind kind of giving a little bit of a background
Not
on
at all.
crystals.
Yeah, so they are very different. They're very different between the scientific world and the metaphysical sciences. In terms of geology, crystals, when we talk about crystals, we're actually talking about the crystalline formations that occur internally or externally of mineral rock during it would have to be, they form in what is considered a crystalline's perfect environmental conditions or under those conditions. And let's see if I can actually pull up an example of a crystal. Can you see that on the screen there?
Yep.
And you see how that smoky quartz, this part that's protruding out, this is actually the crystal itself. And crystallization is when you see those sharp little crystals forming up out of the mineral itself. Now, not all stones or rocks or minerals are considered crystals in geology. For example, you have hematite, right? Hematite, this is the mineral itself. This would also be known as a stone in geology. Then you have different types of agates. Those are not considered crystals in geology. So in geology and earth sciences, when we say crystals, it's very specific to that formation. Okay. And there's a label for everything. So when we're delving into metaphysical, we have to put aside what we know about the earth sciences, okay? Because this is a completely different ballpark, right? When we talk about crystals in the metaphysical world, we're encompassing the minerals, the rocks, the stones, the crystals. Interesting.
I was at a rock shop in a suburb of Minneapolis. They actually had a room dedicated to stones under blacklight. And it was really cool to see how many different stones had different properties and things that you could see under a blacklight. Another thing you would not know if you didn't know, but it was really a cool thing to see.
It's interesting too, because when we talk about the environmental conditions, and we can bring that back to the metaphysical side, because it's all elemental, right? yes, a stone is from the earth, but what conditions were required to create that stone? Sometimes lava, which is fire. Sometimes water, like lava meeting water. That's how you get obsidian, right? I mean, air. There's a certain type amount of air and certain chemical properties within an air that help to create different types of stones. You know, so and you can play with that because if you know those things, you can even harness that beautiful energy that's already built into the stone. So helps at
So,
all.
so for the purposes of this series, we're going to define crystals with the metaphysical world vision, being
Yes.
it's going to have not just the crystalline formations, but we'll also have the energies also will be encompassing uh, fossils, metals, and other things that emit natural energetic healing or transformational properties. So all crystals, they have an energetic field around them. And that is why crystals for a long, long time have been used in technologies like watches, computers, phones. So in like terms of metaphysical practices, these energetic properties or these energetic vibrations resonate for, like, as you put it too, how they're formed, where they come from. And then they also, all living organisms have an energetic signature.
I like that. And
So,
in physics, it's called an energy field.
yep,
It is a field of energy that either surrounds an object, comes from the object, or both. You can take that information and knowledge and think about how, like, limestone,
yes.
right? Maya, what is an example of how what limestone is known for energetic wise?
Um, so, for example, limestone. Um, there's a lot of belief that limestone holds memories. It holds energies. There are a lot of people that believe that, like, a lot of places that have residual haunts have a limestone type of underground underneath them. Um, I think one of them, if I remember correctly, was the Colorado
Yes,
Stanley Hotel. Is that right?
that is correct. There's a lot of
Yes.
limestone under that sucker.
And so there's a lot of people that believe that the trapped residual haunts and the sounds, like if you go down under the caves and such like that, people will hear talking, laughing, crying, things like
Mhm.
that. So there's a lot of beliefs that the limestone will hold those, I guess, for lack of a better word, memories.
Well, yeah, and they're I think the interesting aspect too with limestone is, you know, yes, it could hold the haunts, but it can also hold the living. And it's the energies. It's those energies somehow it collects or like you said, records those energies and then it's like it's replayed. I know that we had talked about this on a previous episode where, when we're talking about spirits that have passed that are still on this realm of existence, right? Oftentimes people get scared because it's unknown, right? But really, I mean, the I think the very interesting thing of it is like, if for example you have a house and the house was built on limestone, the basement's limestone, so on and so forth, and let's say this house is 200 plus years old, right? There's a lot of people who've probably lived in this house over time, and not all of them have passed. Well, that limestone is going to just start, it's just going to keep recording every single energy. It can record, like if you've got a pet dog and you're living there, right? And your dog's like downstairs, you know, and he's playing with a toy and, you know, and he's doing his little growls and it's so cute, right? It can record that. That is an energy being recorded, right? And then it's being replayed. And so sometimes when you're hearing these things, you're not always hearing a ghost. You're hearing living energy that, yes, it's been
Was
recorded and it's
recorded
on
and
replay.
replayed. Yep.
That's really what I think too.
Then there's also like the crystal and salt caves that people will use a lot of the time. So it's a kind of another example of, I can't remember if it was, do you know if the salt caves were Himalayan salt or not? I can't remember.
A lot of it is Himalayan salt. When I was looking this up, I was like, this is the coolest. I want to own one. I want one. I want to just fill a room with Himalayan salt and just chill. Because yes, it's typically Himalayan salt that's used. These salt caves are amazing, and you know, they have a lot of health benefits that are still being recorded. Um, of course, it's not confirmed by like the FDA or anything like that, but I think there's just because it's still such a newer approach that we're now encountering in the Western world, whereas in the Eastern world, it's been a practice that's been long used, and we're gathering our own information on it. We're not there yet, but they're amazing. I have salt lamps in my home.
I do too.
I love them. They're supposed to be good for allergies too.
Hmm.
They just collect all that garbage. They just suck it in, you know, and destroy it. It's amazing.
So when we talk about using crystals then for like healing or environmental or um, transformational purposes, there are various ways that you can go about choosing crystals. If you've not used them in the past, we'll just touch on a couple of different ways that people choose crystals. Absolutely, there are a lot of people that will look them up in a book, like the Crystal Bible or the big blue book of stones or whatever have you. But if you're really new and you don't want to get that in depth, there's lots of other ways to go about choosing them.
Mhm.
How do you choose yours?
I so I actually use quite a few different methods, but my primary go-to is what's needed. What is needed? And it's the method actually you taught me many years ago. I can't even believe how many years it's been. But where you're taking your hand, you know, taking your reading hand. Typically it's your recipient hand and not your projecting.
Did
Handed, it'd be a left hand. Left-handed, it'd be your right.
Yep.
And then there's weirdos like me who are ambidextrous. So I mean, it's just kind of like, ooh, which one do I feel like using today? But yeah, and then you're taking your hand, right? And let's say you've got a pile of stones, right? And you're really just taking your hand and just feeling for the tingles is my best way to describe it, I guess. Is feeling for any like heat, cold, like temperature changes. Are you getting little butterflies? Are you getting goosebumps? Do you have any like little sensations? Do you feel any little pricklies? These are all indicators of what you're going to need, right? Do you see a stone and you're like, oh, and you got to grab it? Well, you need it. Um, when you walk by, are you hearing something? Are you hearing? It could be a vibrational energy. It could be like a whistle. It could be, there's so many different sounds.
Or even a non-sound, like just something
Yeah,
that gets your attention lickety split, like
yep. It's calling to you and you're calling to it. You both are doing this mutual calling, is what you're doing. And you're like, I need you. I need you. I don't know why yet, maybe, but I need you. And that's what I mean. That's typically what I use. Sometimes it is about colors. So if I'm choosing it for someone else, I use the filler method, but I'm thinking about that person in my mind. Um, sometimes it's about color. I know rose quartz. I mean, I've had self-esteem issues my entire life, and rose quartz, rose quartz is one that I need. And although pink is not my favorite color, it is when it comes to rose quartz. And so it's color thing. If I know that I need to do a certain type of spell working or ritual that requires color choices, I'll go by color, and I will go to each one of the stones that have that color that I'm needing, and then I'll do the feel method, right? Which one's going to be best for it? Shapes are good. I love hematite. I love how smooth it feels. I just love rubbing hematite. I know that sounds a little weird, but I really love rubbing it. um, and sometimes you do, you might need that shape. Sometimes you need shapes that are pokey, right? Depending upon what kind of ritual or spell working you're doing. And you're like, I need to banish some bad shit in my life, right? I need something that's got to have some pokey girth to it, right? Um, there's a lot of different ways, but really you got to do what feels right. And you have to kind of clear your mind, open it up. And when you're going to select stones, you need to follow that instinct, that intuition. That's the big thing.
I like how you brought up by color because in many forms of magic, not just healing, but in many forms of magic, there are color correspondences. Not everybody's going to know the color correspondences, but what we can do is we can drop in the Facebook group um, some color correspondences, not just with the chakras, but like with what color magic properties are, whether it be you're doing knot magic, you're doing crystal magic, whether you're doing candle magic or whatever, the color properties they're mutable. They can be used
Yes.
in multiple different things. One of the things that I like to do is if I wasn't familiar with what I needed as far as the stone itself, but I knew what I needed to get from a stone, whether it be spell work, transformation, personal healing, or whatever. I will do a book divination. So, like, what that means is, so you can get a book of stones, and you can think in your mind, like, what it is that you need help with. So, for example, I'm going to say, for example purposes, I need help with clear communication. And then I will flip the book until I stop. And where I stop is then where I read the properties of and see if it coincides with my need. And then I will either find it in my collection or I will go seek it out. So that's book divination. And actually, that works for a lot of different things as well, not just crystals, but you could pick up a book kind of like tarot. If you don't have tarot, you can grab a book and you can ask the question, flip it up where your eyes bring you. read the area that your eyes bring you, and the answer will be revealed within that text. Since we are talking about divination, another good stone selector would be like a pendulum or
Yes.
dowsing rods.
For the yes nos, absolutely.
I have not chosen a crystal using a pendulum in myself, but I have chosen herbs with a pendulum. I'll dump out what I've got, and if it doesn't meet what it says in my my little spell list, I'm not so creative when it comes to just throwing in a substitute. I'll use my pendulum and be like, all right, what's gonna match my intent and my mission here?
Or, like you said, the dowsing rods.
Dowsing rods.
We're going to get to use in another episode.
Yeah, we'll play with the dowsing rods to show how they work when we talk about specific crystals in the next episode. So there are some common myths and misconceptions, but like what would you say? We picked one or two big ones.
We did. So raw versus tumbled, natural versus man-made. And so some would argue that the authenticity of raw crystals enhances their healing efficiency, while man-made, tumbled, or cut would take away from the healing efficiency. I really quickly want to share an example of this, okay? Oftentimes too, when you're buying stones or beads to make necklaces, you're buying glass, all right? Now, glass is made up of minerals, mind you, right? Glass is made up of minerals. Glass is commonly used minerals to make up glass would be silica sand, soda ash, limestone, dolomite, recycled glass that has other minerals in it. And we're gonna pick quartz to compare it to. Okay, quartz is made up of the two most abundant elements on Earth, chemical elements, oxygen and silicon. Silicon. All right. Sometimes quartz can be made up of quartz sand, which has the oxygen and silicon in it. Unsaturated polyester resin, there's always a coupling agent that's used. Titanium dioxide, transparent glass, mirror chips, seashell chips. So there's actually, with everything that was just listed on both the glass side and the quartz side, they all have earth minerals in them. So if you're buying beads and they're actually glass and not quartz, you're still getting the raw mineral properties in the glass.
Well, and let's also keep in mind that a lot of practitioners will also use stones to amplify or put in an intent, encode them with an intent.
Yes.
So whether you do raw or tumbled or man-made, really, you can instill an intent into anything. I could instill an intent into this pencil. So, I mean, take it or leave it. Tell us your thoughts. What category are you in? Share a message on Facebook and let us know. Are you in one team or the other?
And then there's the result expectations, right? You got to understand the natural properties. It doesn't mean you need to go out and be an expert in crystals. When you put your intention into this, it's going to take the actual properties that are already within this stone and they're going to blend together
Or
to try
amplify.
to grow that,
Mhm.
grow that little baby tree, right?
And we'll talk a little bit more about a lot of that in one of the upcoming either part 2 or part 3, because there's so many layers to,
Yes.
like, what Gia was just talking about is it's not just colors and it's not just energies. If you really want to get the best bang for the buck,
Mhm.
knowing whether it's a projective stone or a receptive stone, and so many other things will come up and come into play in future parts of this crystal podcast. So tune into our next episode. We'll talk about crystal cleansing and charging. We will talk about correspondences and properties, attuning, crystal grids, sacred geometry, using crystals in your everyday life, and using them in meditation or ritual. Those are the topics that will be coming up in parts 2 and parts 3. So please be sure to like, subscribe, follow, and share. And we'll see you next time.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Blessed be.